So is it? Uh-oh. It's
No,
audio standing.
no. Leave computer. First mute. Yeah, just. Awesome, thank you.
Leave.
This meeting is convened. We take roll call, please.
Yes, Chair Tard,
Present.
Vice Chair Brothers,
I'm here.
Commissioner Krasinski,
Here?
Commissioner Vatra,
Here.
Commissioner Morse.
Here.
All commissioners are present.
Thanks so much. Now is the time for people to come forward to address items which are not agendized, to be heard and to raise these concerns, such as they may be, to the Planning Commission. Yes, if let me recognize that there are exactly 0 people in attendance, save the 4 or 5 planning commissioners and staff within the old schoolhouse. Do you have anybody present online?
No hands are raised online.
Well, that being the case, we should conclude the oral communications, and we should move forward with the agenda. I guess if you'll forgive me for a moment, I think this is the first meeting that we've had since the passing of Sue Crane. It's been a moment since we've gotten together. I think it's worth reflecting on the fact that Sue is a founding member of the town. She moved here in 1964, the year that the town was established. She was active in both the community civically as well as politically. She served on this commission for a couple of years and then held positions on the town council. You'll know her by her presence, by her work on the general plan to create it such as it is now, to work to acquire the property that's the town center, and frankly, most other significant civic activities over the town's history. She was a contributor. She raised 3 outstanding kids, married, of course, to Hugh Crane, who similarly served Portola Valley in various capacities, predeceased her. Among other things, they founded with other members of Stanford Research Institute Ridge Winery and helped establish the local appellation of our community here as well. And Sue will be missed. And with that, um, let's proceed with the agenda, and I appreciate your forbearance. I believe we have one primary item on the agenda, and we very much appreciate the work of two of our commissioners in preparing material that describes the functioning and is offered to help govern this body as we move forward. I'm not sure if there's a staff report on this. I think that it might be most appropriate for Linda, for you, and I believe Doug to introduce this item, and I'm largely going to be quiet, at least for the moment, after you introduce it, and then if you can take us through the documents. I don't believe we're set up for a vote on it today, but I think we're in a position to have some discussion as to what appropriate next steps would be.
Okay, happy to operate that way. I will note that the minutes from the February 11th meeting are in our packet, and Doug and I were given a 3 months advisement, and we met that deadline with this meeting. So we're moving forward. We prepared the documents that you see attached. The ones related more generically to the commission itself, like web page and the bylaws and policies, were directly kind of arose from the colleagues memo I put together last fall. I did, and I want to implicate him at all, but I did start to work with John Golden then, and he was the one that introduced this and introduced me to this handbook that is later referenced in some of our documents. So at least from his perspective, as someone who'd been involved for a period of time, he thought this was a worthy goal. But the thing he was careful of, and I think all of you in one form or another reiterated the same thing, is this is an effort to memorialize where we are right now and what we do right now. It's not an effort to change any of that. When we get that, babies, you can crawl before you walk, and so that's completely the place. That's completely what the effort is. The one thing that did surprise me, and that this is not a change in any of our documents, is that, we are the complete and utter stewards of the general plan. And if you actually go look at the general plan, which I had from time to time, but I haven't really realized, it includes not just land use and things like that we're familiar with, but also circulation, trails and paths, scenic roads and highways, safety, of course, conservation, noise, and sustainability. So at least in my experience on the Planning Commission, we've never been directly involved in any of those changes, but I would point out to you that according to the law and our rules, we are the stewards of the general plan. And there was a lot of public comment on that in February when we started out on this project. So I haven't changed anything, but I'll just point that out to you. So basically, I don't really need to read this to you. I don't think we've taken what was in the code and just try to flesh out a little bit more. And I'm looking at the bylaws and policies as the first document, those details, and put them together for us. We've also talked about our meetings and meeting requirements. That's also in the town code. I say code, I mean the municipal code. It's in a completely different location. The information, and Ronnie, the three of you who are much better with computers than me, probably find more references, but there's a number of places in the code where our duties are addressed. And one of them is before the Planning Commission and the Council, Chapter 18.76, that talks about public notice and so forth. So this bylaws and policies is a document prepared for your review and hopefully adoption to give a short overview of what the general deal is in terms of having a meeting and the things we comply with in holding a meeting. And for the most part, pulled pretty directly out of the code. And I will say, I looked at a couple of other towns, including Palo Alto. I'm just familiar with Palo Alto because I grew up there, and the first planning commission meeting I ever went to was in Palo Alto. So, and this is, you know, what did we decide? Maybe a quarter of the size of the Palo Alto version, just to give you some perspective on our efforts. The other thing that I thought was useful, and I should have looked at what you guys got, but it might have had some comments from me. It's a red line version of the summary of so I'm moving to a second document now, the summary, the red line version of what's on the website. It needed to be updated anyway because it still had some COVID stuff in it. And so again, I added the words implementation of the general plan, including land use development, circulation, and environmental quality. I just expanded it just a little bit to reflect more accurately what I just said, and then went through and looked at this. I personally would like to start our meetings at an earlier hour, just because I don't work anymore, but our meetings are set by code. So we meet at 7 o'clock, because that's what the town municipal code says. So it's really out of our jurisdiction unless we want to change the code. So that's, I think, pretty straightforward. And then I think there's two other documents that Doug took the laboring oar on. It's just brilliant to have him as a new commissioner on this subcommittee. One was we worked both on the roles and duties of a commissioner. And in large part that references things in this document, Planning Commissioner's role, and from the Fair Political Practices Commission. And then also a draft letter that new commissioners would receive. I think it was really important this time because as I understand it, we have these two new commissioners who basically, as a matter of circumstance and staff turnover and everything else, never really got an introduction. So at least this letter is a starting. So those are our primary documents. And Doug, you did this in the letter, so I'll defer to you if you want to walk through it at all.
I don't really have additional comments, you know, I think that, you know, as you pointed out, it was really an amalgamation of going through those various documents, especially the roles and responsibilities, the generic produced by the state, was very helpful in doing that. So it was, you know, again, a person new to this position trying to figure out what it encapsulates. So that's where and kind of going to, I think Ronnie had a point on in our last meeting of, you know, those documents are out there. We just need to find them. And my goal was to go out and try and do the best I could to find those documents.
So I guess where we are is we presented these for you all as drafts. They're hopefully all marked that way. And what we were proposing was that we'd have discussion, get feedback from you, you know, good, bad, change this word, change that word, whatever. And then we can get together, depending on the volume and severity of the comments, we'll revise this and then hopefully submit it for review and adoption. Early on, as I told you before, I did talk to the mayor. I don't feel like we have to run this by anybody. It might be prudent to run it by the town lawyer, but there's no rules anywhere that says what we have to do. So I guess what I would propose is that let's have the discussion and then decide where to go. But if, depending on like I said, the quantity and volume of the comments, we could revise it, we could send it to the lawyer, and then I could bring it back here with our approval and her approval for your approval. Our subcommittee's approval for the full commission's approval after getting the lawyer's review. Consideration, yes. Your consideration, your considered consideration and approval. I mean, it'd come up for action, Okay. So that's really it. And I mean, I could go through this line by line, but I don't want to insult your intelligence and I think it's all fairly straightforward, but we are happy to answer any questions that you have.
No, I don't have any particular items. I think it's really just getting feedback on, are these the 4 documents that we all think should be prepared, or, and then within those documents, if they are, what should be adjusted if things need to be adjusted.
Yeah, and did we miss anything? I mean, you can look at what's in the 4 corners of our document, but is there something out there that we? So. We are ready to hear your observations, comments, and so forth.
So here's what I would propose in, let me begin by saying thank you very much, first, Linda, for conceiving and identifying the need, and then putting forward a dear colleagues letter and your tenacity in seeing that it's agendized and working it through. And Doug, thank you similarly for your engagement in this and forming the committee to produce these 4 useful documents. And it would be enough if you did this under the best of circumstances, given what things were, so much the more so. So appreciate the contribution to the commission. I suggest that we go through and we identify questions, suggestions that there may be, that we then take any comment that there may be from the public, such as there is, and then discuss the next steps to move forward with it. Just as a starting point, my thought is if there are specific items that we should be attentive to, or the subcommittee that should be attentive to, that would be important to know. Then perhaps providing line edits or specific comments in writing to town staff directly to avoid potential Brown Act issues. This would be shared with the ad hoc committee. They would shuffle the pieces together and then provide it to the town attorney, and the ad hoc committee would then work to create a final draft and suggest.
We're prepared, with all due respect, take all your comments now and write them in on our documents and then come back with another draft. I'm a little worried until we start our discussion about a separate loop that has written comments that aren't shared with everybody.
With respect, I appreciate that you're ready to move forward with it. I think that it may be that it's appropriate to, one, provide comment, and 2, if there are members of the public who subsequently have comment, that you are in a position to receive it so that we actually would have an opportunity to consider for adoption the document.
Happy with that if it's a discrete, concrete period of time. I just don't want it to go on and on, like 7 days. I mean, these are simple documents. They're not rocket science. You don't need to pull out your.
So let's go and talk
Slide rule.
about that during the discussion.
Through the chair, just to be clear, we're doing questions and comments together, not separately.
Yeah, I think the questions and comments right now, and then we can move into public comment and then any discussion such as what's next and what's the most efficient and useful process to move forward. Then Karen, you've got the floor.
Okay, I actually have a lot of questions and comments. And I kind of said, I separated them, so, I will try to merge them a little bit. First is kind of an overview, simple question. Did you contact Patty Dews and see the, proposed, new, committee and commission guidelines?
No, we did not. And that was somewhat intentional on my part. Committees and commissions are very, very different, and we are, if you will, empowered by the code. And so I intentionally didn't do that. I did follow up on a comment you made in public, and I'd heard about anyway, and had distributed to all of you the sort of ethics paper that the town council put together in January or February.
I'm going to go through my comments and questions by, through numerical order. So on page 9, there's a reference to that we appeals from decisions from ACC or other town committees. And as far as I know, we never, for town committees do not come to us. They go to the town council.
Yeah, I have the same comment. The town committees are not decision-making bodies, and I don't think they make decisions that could be appealed at all.
Right, and then most of their purview would go to the town council. I haven't seen I don't remember in the past.
But in
historically.
any case, there's no appeal. I mean, they
Yeah, right,
can,
right.
they advise the ACC, they advise us, the planning commission, they advise the town council.
Point well taken.
Okay.
That looks like it's incorrect. So right off the bat, I could delete or other town committees.
Okay. Also, just above that, we do a lot of revising, the general plan. So I like prepare, revise, maintain, which is kind of different.
Don't think we actually revise. I think revisions are statutory and have to go through the council.
Okay.
I don't mind the concept.
Yeah, the
but,
concept.
But,
Just slightly different than prepare, maintain.
Yeah. I don't think we actually are empowered to revise.
Okay, and on the same page, 2.0, it talks about rotating, the officers. And I believe in the past that it's been rotated through the whole committee, not just the most senior members. And everybody participates eventually. Of course, I would not expect me and Doug to be running this show, this year or next, but, I like the collegial idea of rotating, throughout the years, not just the most senior members.
Nicola's been on the committee longer than I have. It was my perception that it was by seniority, but I don't have a problem removing the word by most senior members. I don't have a problem with your comment.
I had the same comment as Karen.
On the next page, my understanding is that,
Just a minute and I'll fix that right now. In general, these offices are filled, and I would just delete by the most senior members of the commission and just have it say at the time of the annual election in the fall.
do we have an annual election in the fall? Do we have a regular schedule? I've noticed in most, I know committees are really bad, but, and commissions, we try to do it sort of regularly, but it doesn't happen. And I'm just concerned about stating something, if the idea of here is stating what has actually been happening, I don't
We
think that-
actually annually select our officers at an election. That has happened. It's for a one-year term. It's a practice. You might not like practice. but
No,
it
no,
is
no,
an
I think the
accurate
practice is
statement.
fine. I just don't
Okay.
know if it has always regularly happened consistently every year on the same month or
In
anything
my
like that.
experience, it has. But
So that was just based on experience, not.
I can't remember on that one if it's came out of the code. That's a question. I mean,
I doubt it.
Just as a matter of practice over the last 13 years. is that there is an election. It works on a location basis in general, not necessarily. There've been occasions, for example, with Chair Bolton, who served 2 consecutive terms as very few meetings and was relatively complicated on a few matters that were likely to come up. And I took a for a year, and he took a second. There is a vote that takes place on an annual basis. It's generally occurs in November or December. It's drifted on occasion to January, occasionally February. But it is impacted for the chair and for the vice chair. So I think that it makes sense to memorialize that practice. And I don't have views to whether it's specified.
Can I ask a question? So our terms run through January, I believe, typically. And so does it not happen every once in a while that in January someone's term expires and they were the chair or vice chair and it needs to be replaced then? And if that happens, is it a year term or is it until the next fall?
I think there's some flexibility based on necessity. Yes, it should take place in January. The elections do take place the prior in November, and then the person assumes the position in the beginning of the coming year.
Oh, that part? No, I mean, usually they take the position that same meeting, right?
I think that's been our habit over the last couple of terms, but
So you're saying that over your many, many, many years here, the election was in the fall for the officer started. Okay. I can
Oh,
make
that-
this consistent with that. I mean, I think that's logical.
That's actually not what I was saying. I meant like just all of the planning commissioners have terms that I believe
So you're
start
talking
in
about the.
January.
There's not-
Right, and I was just
Yes.
observing that and I think it's true that we have had chair and vice chair rotations in November, but that could set up that I guess it'd be, in theory, the next January, someone may term out and then need to be replaced.
But Ronnie, 2 things. First of all, what I've put in here and what I think I got this, I may have gotten this out of the code. The terms are as vacancies arise. So they don't necessarily start in January. So if somebody withdraws or retires or something, we could start to have people with terms in June or July. And it is actually for that reason that if you look on the website, I worked with Emily and we reordered the listing of commissioners so that it is now by seniority. You were actually listed last, but you're actually in your second term. So those 2 have less of a term than you. So we redid that. But I think, I mean, you raise a good point. The terms are for a year, according to this first sentence of 2.0. They don't necessarily all start on the first of the year. They don't all start in January. Now, some of this, especially in the last few years since I've been here, is screwed up because there's been all the different staff problems and vacancies are allowed to continue and just like that. But at least the way it's set up, the terms, and this is from the code, I'm pretty sure, the terms are for a year as vacancies arise. I didn't actually bring the code with me, so. But I think that's your question, right? As opposed to the officers, as opposed to the terms of the officers.
For the officers, all of us planning commissioners have terms that I believe are January. I was just observing that if if the election's in the fall, that, I think it's the point that you made that there may be a vacancy during the term of the chair
Yeah, and
or
if,
vice chair.
and if the town were fully functioning, then the council would put out an announcement and there would be the decision, because it's a decision to fill the term that's made by the council, not by us. But we've been
No,
through this
you're-
awkward period. They're the ones that do the interviews and make the decision.
I guess you're speaking about something else. I don't see anything dysfunctional,
Okay.
and I,
I want to make sure I understand your point.
I think the point is about us electing the chair and vice chair, which town council's not involved in.
Exactly.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's right, you're right. Emily, did you want to say something? You look like you were about to speak.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Please remember to turn on your microphones.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I am on 2.3. The chair may appoint special subcommittees as needed. From what I understand, the chair doesn't appoint, we agree to have a subcommittee, and we vote on it, like we did for the last two subcommittees.
I agree. I had the same comment again.
Um, 3.2 on the next page. This may be just a me thing over the years, the term adjournment and continuation and adjourn a meeting. I'm just thinking of this document for the public to, I think I understand what continuation now is at this point, but that continuation would be if, like the priority requested at the second meeting to continue, and we never actually discussed it versus an item that came up during the meeting that we decided we aren't going to finish would be an adjournment. Is that correct?
What's your question? I don't understand what your question is.
My question is, I guess, it's a question slash discussion that I would like 3.2 and those words to be clarified somewhere for the public and when we're using those words, because to me, it's always been a little
Those
confusing.
are words of art in the law, and I'm not sure we have the jurisdiction to do that in certain circumstances. For example, if we're in a special meeting, if, for example, we're at the board of adjournment, those are terms of art.
I understand that, but it would just be nice that somewhere those terms of art were
Well, tell me what you like. They're clear to me, but if you have a suggestion, I'm happy to hear it.
okay. I don't have one at the moment, but can come up with.
Can I add a question,
Yeah,
comment?
yeah.
Yeah, I guess we're just where it says, any regular special meeting of the commission may be adjourned to a subsequent date certain.
Yes?
Like, I thought we usually use the term continue for that.
Continued as opposed to adjourned.
Correct.
Probably a question for the lawyer. I don't have a problem with that.
And I think probably, no one here knows necessarily the right answer, so maybe you're right, it's a question for the lawyer. But I'm not asserting that it continued is right, that's just what I thought.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't-
we
I
had the
think it's
same
a-
confusion because we were probably,
Sentence without a substance, I think, because you still have to adjourn the meeting, but continue the matter. We don't stay in a meeting. We adjourn the meeting, but we continue the matter. And it has to be specific, like the priority. I'll entertain, comments if you have them on that. To me, it seemed pretty clear, but I hear what you're saying.
okay, 3.4. The chair or vice chair shall chair the meeting. I was just thinking of a special circumstances that perhaps you both had to recuse yourself. I'm assuming we'd still run the meeting with the three people that were not chair or vice chair?
So what's your question? If both the chair and the
Vice
vice chair
chair
are
are absent
who
for
would run the meeting?
Yeah,
I would suggest you probably don't have a meeting at that point.
No, you do.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
Well, since,
I've just seen recusals on some of these
well,
commission meetings, that's
as
why.
a matter of practice, the chair works out the agenda with the secretary, who's the planning director, and that's in the code for one of our sections. So, to begin with, if the chair's missing and the vice chair has to chair a meeting, we're already treading in deep water. So if it's then at another point, you basically, I think, have the secretary be the one with the substantive knowledge. But in any case, what is written here does not prohibit three people from having a meeting. It then goes on to say the presiding officer. And so that could be anybody, any of the five.
Well, I read it as prohibiting. I mean, it says the chair or vice chair shall chair the meeting at the
Okay.
designated start time, and I don't think that's a requirement.
Chair, vice chair, or other presiding officer. It's just- Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay, next page, yeah, sorry, I did it on,
Well,
Sec-
It's okay, no, I appreciate it,
No.
I appreciate it.
so section 5, uh, can we really adopt our bylaws, or we serve under the auspiciousness of the town council? And so, although we may all agree on a set of bylines, I still think that they would have to agree on our bylines also. Bylaws. I mean, I don't think we have full authority. I mean, we could go rogue and do something and just,
There's nothing anywhere in the code that keeps us from doing it this way, and we are set up as an independent body. But if you guys don't want to do it that way, I don't care. I mean, it's just another step. We've already let the mayor know, and that's fine. I didn't make the mayor make any statements because she didn't have anything in front of her, but, it's fine. I don't care. I mean, I don't feel strongly about that. I do feel strongly that they should be posted on the website and should be part of a package that's made available to subsequent commissioners. So I'm happy to change that.
on the next page, when we're getting into the next thing for the website, as you touched on in the intro, I kind of, we are kind of responsible for the general plan, and the words general plan including, I think we're responsible for the entirety of it. I wouldn't pull out just the way the sentence is written. I know I did not, I have an offer of a better version at the moment.
Your question? I don't, you sort of mumble and then I can't figure out what it is you're trying to say.
Oh,
You
I'm
like
sorry.
the
On
sentence structure?
page, yeah, the sentence structure on the second paragraph. Implementation of general plan, including land use and development, circulation, environmental quality. I think if we're really responsible for the general plan, it would kind of not just pull out those, because there are other important elements too. It's just sort of the
Well,
wording of
general
it.
plan has 6 parts. And that is basically 1, 2, 3, 4 of those are the 4 substantive parts. The other parts are sub-area plans and general plan diagram. So I think we're not going to touch that diagram. So the others, setting assumptions and general plan. So those are the substantive aspects of the plan.
Oh, so it's like safety and the housing element are subcategories
They're
there?
categories within the parts.
Okay,
If you
okay.
Look at the plan.
we do have those. I mean, some of them, yeah.
It can change over time.
But, can I ask a
Oh, yeah,
follow-up,
yeah,
or yeah, I mean, I guess I don't understand on why you're saying that the planning commission is responsible for implementing the general plan.
And that is in our code description of our duty.
The entire general plan?
Yes, that was why I mentioned it at the outset. It was different to me from the way we'd always been operating.
I'd want to see a reference for that. Right.
Sentence as a whole too. It says we're addressing policy matters related to the implementation of the general plan, which I think is your clarification.
Which the first, what part of the sentence?
Planning Commission is responsible for addressing policy matters related to, and then I suggested the addition of implementation of the general plan, including.
I see. So that sentence, I guess, you're not trying to, the sentence is not trying to say the thing you said at the beginning, which is that the planning commission is responsible for the implementing the entire general plan.
Well, our jurisdiction, I think what I said and meant to say is our jurisdiction includes the whole general plan, not just land use or some of the matters that we've traditionally taken, and that is coming from our code.
And I don't think that's right, but I guess you could read this sentence as not actually implying that.
Let's. Well, I didn't make it up, but I don't have the backup on it right now. The other thing I did not include there are the other various jobs we have, like being a committee of the subdivision, under the subdivision section. This was an effort to keep this as short and succinct as possible, but being a little more accurate than it was before.
Commissioner Brothers, on the screen, I have the code section for chapter 2.20.
Recommend such ordinance and resolutions are necessary to implement the general hearing, see upon application, use environment. I think that sentence is consistent with our duties, but if you don't like it, I'm happy to have you suggest an alternative. I think when read in conjunction with the description of the general plan in the code, what I propose is not inconsistent with that. Obviously, the code was put together before we even had a town and before we had a general plan. So you can go through and look at A, which was the prepare it. And then you can talk about the changes to it, to implement it. If we're making changes necessary to implement it, it's a fine line to say we're not implementing it. But, you know, if you want to change it, I'm fine for that. But if you want to throw it out, let's come up with an alternative, please.
It's an issue that it's a different thought for it.
Right.
Chair Tark, your mic, please.
Thank you.
Okay, on page 15,
Okay, go
page,
ahead.
page 15, paragraph 3, and I know that both of you are CEQA lawyers, but I find CEQA is basically good government law. It to me seems like an opinion. That doesn't seem to really belong in,
What document are you reading out of?
I'm on page 15 of the package, roles and duties of commissioners. Oh, sorry.
I'm getting it. Okey-doke. Hey, I'm catching up with you. It's pretty much right out of CEQA, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chairman. I could take out basically a good government law, but basically, okay. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, deleted.
Next page 16 to, oh, this is probably a more controversial one, and it was controversial within town, that the general plan serves as the town's constitution. And to me, there's definitely an analogy between the general plan and the constitution, but it's not a one-to-one. So I don't, because everything in there that's written in the general plan isn't legally binding like, the federal constitution. So I'm a little uncomfortable with that statement. Yeah.
There's a phrase that the general plan is the Constitution and is commonly referred to it. I think you could handle that just by putting it in quotes and just resolve the issue. And it say, both points are right. And if you just put it in quotes.
I actually don't agree with that. I mean, I think the word constitution is vague enough. It's, what do you want to say? It's our governing documents, constitution. I've got my microphone on and my computer off. I don't know what's happening. Okay, so I actually think it's well stated. There's nothing about a constitution that has to be like the United States Constitution. So, but I can be outvoted, so if you have an alternative. I don't like the use of quotes, Nicholas, unless we really have something we're going to ascribe it to. If you
Can I-
don't like that word, let's find another word.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's fine.
can I jump in? I had exactly the same comment as Karen. And it's a controversial statement that the general plan is the town's constitution. It's been debated back and forth on PV Forum as recently as this week. And I just don't think it's necessary for us to use that word here. I think there's a lot of ways that it could be rewritten.
I will check and see what the general plan says about itself. Might have some insight onto this.
Okay, under key competencies and best practices on page 16, going to page 17, there's a very odd phrase I do not understand. Town of Portola Valley strong adherence to the values session. What is a values session?
Know what that is? Maybe that word session is misplaced. Maybe that should have been deleted.
And then there's another weird word, just after that, relevant focus on facts and relevant legal standards.
That's pretty clear to me.
What did wait, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not what I was thinking of, I'm sorry. Um, how does our town attorney fit into this? This was a totally different comment, I'm sorry.
Doug, do you have an earlier draft of this document that maybe that word session got misplaced?
I thought we could probably just remove it.
Yeah, I think so too. Strong adherence to the values of the town, I think, could say, or something like that.
It still makes it a really weird sentence, like in the town of Portola Valley, strong adherence to the values. Why
All right.
why Portola Valley? I mean,
Yeah, I agree with you take out in the town facility and strong adherence to the values of the town. It might not be. Okay, yeah. That is from the code, from the general plan right away. Okay.
And then in conclusion, the very last words, in public future generations.
the end of the conclusion.
Doug, do you have any comment on that?
I agree, it's awkward. I agree, it's awkward sentence.
Earlier in that sentence also says shape the town for set forth in the general plan. Oh, I guess it's a previous sentence.
Something happened there in the cutting and pasting,
Yeah.
I think. Thoughtful decision making that will shape the town for future generations is what the sentence should say. Yeah, that's fine.
One area that's sort of missing from this document seemed to be about like drafting new laws or making, like the housing element, working on the safety element, sort of the hard work, what they sometimes call the sausage. And maybe that should be somewhere on this list.
Housing element is under the general plan, under land use.
Okay.
So if you want to go through land use, open space, recreation, housing, historic resources, I guess we could do that. But if we put one out, we're sort of discriminated against those and circulation and trails and paths. And so that's
Well,
why I use the parts, the names for the parts in the general plan. So it could be inclusive on the one hand, but not so detailed as to, be obsessive.
that wasn't quite what I was referring to. It's more referring to the it seems like the hardest part is making the sausage as people have referred to in the past. I'm not sure if that came out of this list.
Well, that's the essence of governance. And I guess the point that we've tried to make in here is, especially in the letter that Doug drafted, is collegial discussion, because that is the essence of what we do. But it's, not necessarily that something that falls into the category of roles and duties other than as we just described in here. To be prepared and to, take part in discussion. But I disagree with the concept of pulling out any particular subcategory of what we do, personally. Yeah, housing has taken a lot of time, but that's by the nature of the state situation that we're in and where we are in time. I mean, there's nothing to say that next week or next month, scenic roads and highways aren't gonna take a lot of our time, especially when they start to widen Alpine Road. So I think for the longevity of our document, which may only be 6 months, I don't know, but I think for the longevity of our document, not getting into those kind of details is preferable. And you might not agree with my thought process, but that's what I use, it's straight out of the general plan, straight out of the code. So,
Yeah, I don't have super, it was a thought that came up with me, but I don't know if I have,
make
super,
a specific comment and I'll figure out where to put it.
I'll
But
think about that. I don't want to do that online right now. And on the next document, which is the letter, on the first page, the second to last paragraph refers to having initial onboarding discussion with the town attorney, which I have not had and I don't expect to have.
we understand.
So,
But we
But
wish,
don't
we wish
disagree
we
with
had it.
right, well, but
And maybe by
Is-
having this letter, some of these things will happen.
that is in conflict with what you said earlier about this is documenting what we have today, and that if we want to change things, which,
I wasn't talking about the letter in that regard. I was talking about the policies and the
Okay.
commissioners' duties. The letter is new.
Yeah, the letter came out of the idea of having a onboarding process for new commissioners. And so that's kind of, this replaces that idea. Originally, it was a list I had put together of here's what would be nice to have to be trained as a new commissioner. And then that went into the letter, combine a welcome letter plus that. So if some of these things aren't practical, we might want to cut back on them and,
So
but
it has
if,
been done in the past.
okay.
I had that, Bonnie, I'm sure you had that when we got on board, right? It's just that you guys came in at this time of turmoil.
Right.
So I think it's perfectly
I
adequate.
tried to do that. I sent emails out and, didn't hear back. So,
But I mean, I don't think this letter is a mechanism for kind of creating a change in the onboarding process.
I had the same reaction was, and also the same question of, is that the chair's responsibility or is that staff responsibility? And who leads that? And of course, you'd like to have a welcome, just an email say, hey, I'm the chair, blah, 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 I'd like to meet you. But I don't really know who really should be doing that. If that really should be the chair or the staff. Okay. I'm almost done. Not quite. I think something that's kind of missing that's in the background is there've been a bunch of questions on how we interact with some of the other committees, particular BPTS, who seems more vocal about it. I don't know where that fits in here. On a larger issue, I went through all the details. I'm not really sure why this needs to be a separate document, or can it be included within the town committee and commission handbook as a very large section?
What are you talking about? Which document are you talking about? You
Um,
said should this be a separate document? I don't know what document you're talking about.
I'm just sort of thinking of the whole thing is like, I don't really want to make new documents that it might get lost, as you said, go away in 6 months. So as much as possible, if we can incorporate what we need to be in the code, in the municipal code, or in, the ethics package or the town committee and committee handbook, I think that would be preferable, because then that would be maintained, more likely to be maintained regularly. And not something that we have to own, or our future selves have to own every few years. Because the town committee and committee handbook, even though it covers a lot of other people, it's updated semi-regularly, more procedurally.
I don't understand your point exactly, but we have a specific duty and, when we're in certain for certain categories, we're not a committee. And so you keep correlating us to committees in a general sense, and I can't understand really what you mean. They're very different.
I think the
If you wanna
document
speak, you
is
can.
a committee and commission. handbook.
Yes, it's a committee and
It
commission
is
handbook.
right now. You know, to me, it's a serious question whether or not we should be in it. I think for just the reasons Karen's making perfectly clear here, people don't make the distinction. And our duties are set forth in, in the code, 18.76, where we have to hold meetings and so forth. So that's not true of the committees. And so I think,
Well, the ACC is also an official body.
that is right. And they are also laid out in the code as to their jurisdiction. And what's different from us from the committees in reality is everything that we do in certain circumstances, the reason we have to go through these procedures like the Brown Act and notice and everything is thank God it doesn't happen a lot in Portola Valley, but those are all can lead to legal circumstances. Those are all appealable and they can all go to court. And as far as I know, that's not true of anything that our committees do. They may recommend things to town council where that might happen. And were we in another town, this would be a big difference in San Jose or Mountain View or Redwood City. And so, if you have a specific comment, I'm happy to look at it, but I think it's a serious mistake for the whole town to have put the commission in with the committees. And quite frankly, the people who are revising it have never reached out to any of us. So they may feel the same way, for all I know.
I want to observe that we're heading into discussion into the nature of the Town of Portola Valley's committee and commission handbook is beyond our scope of our review. And if we have issues with it, we can make recommendations either as this body or individually to staff or to council.
Those were all of my questions / comments.
I just have a question for you, Karen. What I'm unclear on is, are you suggesting that this document is not needed and could be in part of some other documents? Or is it within this document you see changes that you would like to make it
I am
more
not-
accurate?
I went through like the changes to
Right.
make the document more accurate, but I'm not 100% sure that it could be somewhere else. I'm opening it up to what, or we
Yeah.
could have a commission handbook and a committee handbook that were separate, that, to me, it just seems like we're creating multiple documents, particularly the letter to the introductory letter to me seems a little odd. I'm sorry.
We're again drifting into
Discussion.
discussion, and we can handle that in a more sort of orderly rather than having sidebars going forward. So, Ronnie, do you have items or additional items that you would like to?
Sure. Yeah, Karen has actually covered a lot of them, so I will need to filter as I read these. Yes, we did that one. Oh, okay. So I'm in the bylaws on 2.1. Let me get to it as well. There we go. Right, which is on page 10. So this concept, Portola Valley Director of Planning serves as the secretary of the commission. I guess I'm a little hesitant about that terminology and naming the planning director as the secretary of the commission. So I'm just wondering where that came from. Is it Are they? Okay.
It's laid out in the code that when we are certain modes, for sure, as the other modes laid out that way. The other reason to do that is technically, as a body, we need someone who is the secretary, who keeps the notes. And that has always been the staff. It could say the director of planning or they can designate, but to me, that's all implicit in a document like this. But it's not a member of the commission.
So just to confirm, you're saying our municipal code states that the planning director is the secretary?
I could pull that up for you, but I just reread that this afternoon.
That's fine.
It may not always be the case, but it is the case in certain circumstances where, like, no. That it's in. Yeah, make this up down the whole. So, um,
Okay.
your concern is about it being too specific, or it's about being director of planning?
My concern, well, if it's in the code, then I'm fine with it. I didn't know if it was. So 2.4, 3 members shall constitute a quorum for the purpose of doing business. And I guess I could just use this as an example of something that is in the code. Maybe you're saying a lot of this is in the code. So what is your thought process around putting it in here? Why do we kind of need it in the bylaws if it's already in the code?
The bigger question is what's put in the bylaws and what's not. And anytime you're in an organization, there's certain fundamental things. Somebody has to take minutes, somebody has to call the meeting to order, and some of those things. So I think it's in that context that it seemed to me worthwhile to state that you have to have a quorum. You can't do business without a quorum. And it just seemed worthwhile. I don't care. You know, if you don't want to have that in here, it doesn't have to be in here, but it is true. And to me, it doesn't seem to distract at all, stated.
Well, I guess it's just a matter of maintaining one versus the other. If we ever change these words, or if the municipal code ever changed, then they're out of sync. And it's already a true fact that in the municipal code, it's specified that 3 members shall constitute a quorum. So I didn't know what function it's serving here.
You can't have a meeting, whether you're the council, whether you're planning commission.
I agree with that because that's in the code, right? That's in the municipal code. But so putting it here in this document doesn't change anything, I guess. Okay.
Also adds, quite frankly, that if the quorum doesn't exist at the announced time of.
Well, that's my next comment. That's my next comment. Well, okay, let me do my next comment. It's a question. Yeah. So I believe right now the chair has discretion to decide what time to adjourn the meeting. And I guess my question was if you are intentionally trying to change that. It sounds like you are. So I believe right now the chair has discretion, for example, to decide to call a meeting to order late. Let's say we don't have a quorum at 7 o'clock exactly. They could wait and then call the meeting to order at 7:05. And like I like the background in part of my concern here is having it written down this way. If we actually, do that in practice and call the meeting to order at 7:05 because someone's late, then someone could claim that the meeting is invalid because it's violated our bylaws. And so, maybe it seems nitpicky, but I don't think we should.
Actually, a better way to phrase it, to convey what I wanted to say. Now, to your question, code says our meetings start at 7. The website says our meetings start at 7. Like I said earlier, I'd love to change the time when our meetings start, but that is in the code. And I don't think that for purposes of sort of legal ramifications, having something in our bylaws is going to change what's in the code.
Okay, I'll just say that I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is duplicative. But basically, being duplicative of the code doesn't get members of the public very far. It doesn't get new members very far. It doesn't get us as an operating body very far because it's throughout the code. What's in the code in one place is limited and then it's in another place. I counted up, 7 or 8 different different categories of places where we were in the code. So it's an effort to sort of bring all that together. If people feel strongly, I don't care if we have a statement about a forum or not.
Okay, there's kind of two separate points. The quorum, I think, is duplicative, redundant with the code. This second sentence about the time, I think, is going beyond what's there, and you disagree, but I'm uncomfortable with it. Next one. 3.0, meetings shall be available live for electronic access by members of the public. I would just change the terminology here to say they'll be available for remote attendance. Yeah.
Great.
3.1, a typo may be as one word should be 2 words. 3.5, that the secretary should assure that the meeting minutes are ready by the next regularly scheduled meeting, I think I don't think we should specify that. They should get them ready as soon as they're able to. But typically been at the next regularly scheduled meeting, especially since it needs to go through the transcription. So
I agree with that. I just sort of forgot about it.
And then in section 5, I guess I just have observed that you are requiring the vote of 4 commissioners, and I guess just what's the thought process behind that? Just having a super majority or more agreement required, or what?
And the court mentioned, I think about size of the town, started to think about it, I thought, it's going to be our bylaws, more than just a simple majority seems to make sense. We can't get 4, I guess we don't have a bylaw, I don't know. It was intentional.
Mhm.
And that was the rationale. If you may or may not agree with that, like I said, effort to get us all on the same page.
Okay. Yeah, on the website, oh, okay. Yeah, I had noted, I wasn't sure about the implementation of the general plan. We discussed that. I guess specifically adding circulation and environmental quality. I guess I just didn't know if that was accurate, that the planning commission is responsible for circulation, let's say. No, that's the general plan, but I don't know if the planning commission is responsible for those. yeah, actually, it is in here again. Meetings are usually available electronically for members of the public. Yeah, available for remote access by members of the public.
Where we wanted to say usually access.
Yes, yes.
Well, just to follow on that, to me, it sounds like as allowed by state law, remote attendance by members, which is a different.
I think we're looking at two different, where are you reading that?
Meetings are usually available electronically.
Yes.
And I'm going to change
Oh.
electronic for remote attendance, right?
Right. Now I'm reading the,
And it says allowed by state law. That is because members cannot just attend like a.
Right.
Ye-
That's why those comments.
right.
Remember, we have to go through that song and dance.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I think we're just talking about the word electronically versus remote attendance. And then I guess I think somewhere we should have more guidance for the public, how they submit public comments, either for a meeting or also on other matters that aren't agendized on a meeting. I guess either submit public comments or send the planning commissioners a message. Maybe it's the same thing.
I actually agree with that a lot, Bonnie, and I didn't put it in here with something that I didn't want to feel like it's something that we hadn't addressed. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put that in here, list of things to discuss. I very much think we should make point of being available to the public, listening to public input. So if you have a sentence for that, I think it'd be great. I think this is a good place to put it.
Well, maybe to your point, I mean, we actually need the,
What?
I think well, I don't know if it was your point, but I guess we need the actual policy worked out. And what is the email address, et cetera. And there are other parts of our website where maybe it could go, but this, it seems like it could go here. Okay, the next document, the roles and duties. So I guess first, kind of a high level question, you said you drew heavily from the Institute of Local Government Planning Commissioner Handbook. And I guess, what is your thinking what did you take from there? What did you leave out? And what is your thinking behind creating this parallel version of that document versus just referencing that document?
I'm not sure I have a full answer for that. I mean, what I tried to do was go through again of, try and synthesize a, brief document again, for originally the idea was for new commissioners coming on, what is the breadth of what our responsibilities are and how do we train for those? And then as we were looking through and so that's where it started as a welcome letter plus a onboarding letter. And then it kind of became, the roles and duties of this. So I tried to, take the high level points rather than, from that.
So I guess
really-
would you say you
and
tried to-
and cross-referencing those other documents as well that contribute to our overall role.
I mean, the planning commissioner handbook kind of sounds like what you're trying to write, but are you saying you took it, have you is this like a simplified version of it, would you say, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a really good, because it's a lot of handbook. It's really not relevant. I mean, the kind of situations that you find in big towns, more communities that have a lot of business activities and things like that. So I do think what he did really well was pick out the highlights that really apply to us. And there's a lot in that handbook that I just thought was really beyond the pale of our activities. So I think it serves a purpose. I think it serves a good purpose for how we fit into the governance of this town. And I think it's a good job. I mean, just take this quick look at this, this book on page 2. It's, report on capital improvement plans and land acquisitions and a lot of things that we just don't do in this town by virtue of the way the town is set up, like Palo Alto or San Jose or something like that. So I think personally, I think you did a great job pulling out the pieces that were useful to us. So, I mean, Ronnie, you may disagree with that and just not want to have it at all, but I think for what it is, I support it.
I wasn't necessarily going that, that far, just trying to understand your,
I actually think it's a very valid comment. I don't know if this is the time to talk about that, but I think that maybe is where we should have started this conversation rather than going into the details, is to say, do we need these documents? Because I think as a new commissioner, these would have been very helpful for me, but maybe an onboarding process that is quite different, where someone's spending time and sitting with you and, directing you to existing documents could get you to the same place. And it may be that, we're concerned about rewriting or duplicating. So I get it.
yeah, and I mean, I guess my question was stemming off of, I think in your intro, you say you drew heavily from the
Right.
planning commissioner handbook.
I will say that although when I was on the commission, I did have an introductory meeting with a lawyer and the then planning director. I didn't become aware of this until last fall when John Goldman and I were first putting together the Dear Colleagues memo. So I think you've identified the gap, at least, that we're just not getting any information to new people, and what it's giving to new people is not consistent. And so how we fill that gap with just the letter, or with the letter as well as this,
Yeah,
I
it
think
might be that we don't need this, and you could have the letter that then points the people to those documents, and they could read through those.
Yeah. Great. Get on with it.
Microphone, please.
Ronnie?
Okay, on section number 1, I guess, on page 16 at the top. Decisions must be based on findings of consistency with the general plan based upon the administrative record provided to the commission and compliance with local ordinances and CEQA. And then comparing that, I guess, to what it does say in the local government handbook, where it says review individual projects for consistency with the general plan, any applicable specific plans, the zoning ordinance, and other land use policies and regulations. I guess that's just a case where I'm wondering like why we're sort of saying it in a different way and not including all the other well, specific plans, zoning ordinances, land use policies and regulations.
I would agree we should include it.
Okay. Page 17 at the top, disclose potential financial or ethical conflicts of interest. Are ethical conflicts of interest defined somewhere? I'm not aware of us needing to disclose ethical conflicts of interest.
And it's a good question. The town has generally taken the position that if your property is within a certain distance of some property that's appearing before us, that you have to do that. And I notice that
Well-
Emily has been regularly asking us of that when we have a specific property
That,
that we're
that,
looking at. So that's
that's
the only
spec-
ethical conflict I've heard addressed in this.
well, that's a financial conflict of interest and it's specified by the FPPC, I believe.
Well, that there's vagueness with what they've done, which the town has. I don't
I
think.
don't-
that
I don't think
every-
that's right.
FPPC has it.
It has the
Okay.
distance, yeah. So, yeah, so if ethical conflicts of interest are not something that's defined, then I think we should remove it. Yeah, the rest we covered. That was.
Let me just go through quickly most of what I plan to say has been said. So I'm not going to say it again. With respect to the purpose, identifying that the bylaws are subordinate to ordinances or council policy. Would be helpful for clarification, almost like a savings provision.
Is town council, echo. Is town council policy a thing other than ordinances?
It is a thing. So for example, the council has adopted policy with respect to use of electronic devices during committee and commission meetings.
Isn't that an ordinance? I mean, isn't that how they,
No.
anyway, then,
That is to say, you might think that that would be appropriate in the way it's done, but it in fact is a town policy.
And there's the ethical policy that was just adopted by the council a few months ago that I had distributed to all of you after our agenda came. Your comment, good point.
On the officers, that's in terms of under section 2.0, council will appoint for 4-year terms for such length of time as is necessary for completion of a vacancy.
I don't think I don't think they have the flexibility to make a term less than 4 years.
Both of us, for example, have had terms that are less than 4 years, and I'm not in a,
We're filling an existing term.
that's correct. So,
Okay.
so there's
Okay,
an
I see what
appointment here. I think, I understand what you're saying.
I see what you're saying.
And I'm sorry to be annoying on that point, but
No, but you're saying what to fill out that was vacated. Okay, got it.
the issue of the planning director serving as secretary, I think that that's right in limited circumstances. I don't believe that that's correct as a general matter. I don't, this, I know when we're serving as the Board of Adjustments, zoning Board of Adjustments, that's accurate, but I don't know that that's accurate as a general matter. I didn't research it, but we should be there. Similarly, we identified that the section maybe 2.2, that the chair work with the secretary to prepare the agenda. I think that's fine, but it is, I think that the planning director sets the agenda in consultation with the chair, except under limited circumstances, and that may be something that we want to explore. And maybe explore with staff as well. Vice chair shall assist the chair, preside over meetings or otherwise conduct the duties of the chair in the chair's absence. That makes sense. We've addressed the secret issues. There are issues of conduct, and typically we've adopted Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
It's probably worth referencing that as a general matter. There's an additional item that is worth discussing, and that is how we want to treat categorical exemptions. Categorical exemptions, depending on who is planning director and who is planning commission chair, it is either a matter that is established by staff or is established in resolutions or separate resolutions.
Sorry, what is a categorical exemption?
Pardon me?
What are you talking about?
Under CEQA.
Oh, sequel.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I appreciate the interject. I appreciate the interjection, but I think that those are really the other items have really been called out, and I think that there's some wording, there's a couple of typos.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, which we can go and pick up. I do have thoughts about the letter. But I think that's more of a discussion matter. I would propose that we've done a lot of talking and that we close this portion and we open it up for public comment.
That's good.
And recognizing that this is not a hearing, but it's a comment.
Rita comments, you're allowed to speak.
Well, thank you very much. I've been waiting so long. Let me just get my notes. Sorry, but first I want to say thank you. Thank you, Emily, for helping others get onto the microphone. It's really hard for us that are trying to participate via Zoom to hear if your microphones aren't on, you know, the way the sound is in the room. So it's pretty impossible for us. And then we don't have a recording, and the town has been really relying on these recordings to use as backup minutes. And then we don't have a decent recording for that. So I appreciate everything that you can do. Chair Targ, there were many times where you were talking that could not hear your voice at all. And I want to thank Vice Chair Brothers for this memo and all the work that went into it. Newer commissioners may not have seen my letters and emails to the Portola Valley Town Council about past meetings not being held. There used to be onboarding for new members in January, but that I know of. I haven't heard it happening in years. And before the recent planning meetings that have been happening, there were rarely any planning commission meetings, except for if the topic was about housing element. There were months, many months without meetings on resident building issues, permits, or updates on important matters that the residents were concerned about, such as the safety plan, evacuation plan, Stanford Wedge EIR, and many more that caused a lot of the residents to have delays on information they were waiting for, but building was still happening in town. So I'm sure it caused a lot of redundancy with our contractors by not having meetings. And so I just really appreciate all the meetings that we've been having lately, but the new commissioners may not have been aware of how this memo came about to just kind of pull things together. But there are many people in town that do really appreciate the focus on this and the seriousness of this, so that we can continue to grow the way that we've been growing since 1964. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me also just note that the good work of Commissioner Moores in bringing this forward, who is one of our new planning commissioners.
Phone number ending in 7562, you're allowed to speak.
Good evening, Caroline Vertonghen. I concur with Rita's comments. It was very hard to follow. So when we were talking about public meetings, it's an issue that is ongoing, and we hope to resolve this. How can we participate if we cannot hear the dialogue between, or the conversation between, the different commissioners? I really thank Commissioner Broder and Moores for putting this work together. It's very necessary. We need new commissioners to know that, yes, our general plan, however you interpret it, no, this is our Constitution. And you might divert from it, but no, we want to establish this. This is our Constitution. In regards to CEQA, we have two CEQA experts on this planning commission, and we hope that they will help this town preserve everything that is that is preserving our rural community. Many times projects have come forward and they were CEQA exempt, and it was not staff. It was a consultant who does not even know our town, who put this together. And it's a young and energetic employee, and has no idea how valuable our town is. So I hope you can reestablish this, and you guys should be in lead to review all CEQA exemptions. In regards to the conflict of interest, I hope you understand this is not just financial, because we don't know your financial conflicts. It's always hidden. We want to have the ethos. You know, that's what Portola Valley was based on. It's truth and genuine and real people who can communicate, who tell the truth. We don't want to have backdoor deals, and we know it has happened in the past. We want to get rid of this. So every openness would be appreciated. Let's see. Yeah, we had several comments, but you know, we only have 3 minutes. So please continue this effort and make it, don't change too much. Make it very simple. We have the concepts there, and every committee, you guys are decisive committees, but all the other committees are supposed to help you. And unfortunately, there's no collaborative effort. So when we are trying to give you the input, there's no process. And we have asked, well, we thought there was a process, but it was not in reality. So I think there's several committees who are pursuing the same thing as you are, is from town council have direction. and see how we can all communicate together to bring our town back into good practices. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phone number ending in 3056, you're allowed to speak.
Dana Breen, 4680 Alpine. I am really enjoying the conversation tonight, listening to you guys hammer this thing out. I think it's wonderful. And it just speaks to me of kind of good democracy and good dialectic. And I just wanted to say vis-a-vis the general plan and the Constitution that when I first moved to town, people were calling it the Bible, and I was really uncomfortable with that. So I prefer the Constitution to the Bible. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
No more hands are raised at this time.
All right, we're now in discussion. I would suggest that we go through each of the documents in a serial manner. Talk about whether there are items, one, that need to be further refined based on the discussion that we've had, that whether they're open issues. Two, and then two, whether we want to keep the document or what form the document might be in. And then three, the best way to move that document forward. And I think that there may be different paths for different documents for each of the documents. If that makes sense, then I'd like to proceed in a serial manner. Again, recognizing the excellent work of Commissioner or Vice Chair Brothers and Commissioner Morse. So why don't we begin with the bylaws as a whole. I think that there was a kind of a fundamental question that was raised with respect to whether the bylaws should repeat and include pertinent language or specific language from the town's ordinances, or whether it should be consistent with the ordinances but not redundant with redundance, right, with the ordinances. Why don't we address that matter as a threshold issue? Ronnie, I think that was really your issue.
Yeah, I was raising it as a question.
Why don't we steelman it? You know, take a strong position for the purpose of argument why it wouldn't be. I'll do it. Including ordinances and established policies within the bylaws includes some but not all of the requirements of this body by excluding other provisions of code and policy that we're both required to follow and that we should follow. The document itself is both incomplete and, um, uh, well, including, language, that is stated elsewhere. So it's confusing as to what it actually is. So we probably should only include those elements that are apart from the existing policies to avoid the confusion that this well-meaning document is um, likely to engender. How's that?
I'm not agree with you. I wonder if people feel
mic.
differently if we just called it our policies rather than our bylaws. Our enabling law is like 4 lines, and if that's all you want to have, then that's fine. I think that's a disservice to the public. I think it's a disservice to the members. I think it's a disservice to the whole operation to not elaborate on some of those things. Yeah, we could quote that little section from the code. 2 of the 4 lines, by the way, had to do with setting things up, not with actually operating things. So really only 2 remain relevant. That's our statute. Elsewhere in the code, in 5 or 6 different areas, we are given other jobs. And nowhere else in the code, except when we sit at the Board of Adjustment, is there anything about how we run, whether we have terms, whether we have a chair, whether we have a quorum. So this is an effort. You know, if you don't want it, you don't want it. But I don't see the purpose in just saying we want this because it's in the code, and we don't want that because it's in the code, or we want this because it's in Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, I'm not going to rewrite it that way. I totally understand some of the points that were made, and I think there are some good changes to wording, but I can't see, you know, going through and citing every section of the code, which is literally 2 lines, unless we're sitting at the Board of Adjustment, which is literally 10 pages, without making some judgments. And if the board doesn't want to commission doesn't want to make judgments, that's fine. You know, Doug and I have tried our best to do that. And I don't mean to sound argumentative, but you can't take, you know, spaghetti and make it into a chocolate torte. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. And if I'm misunderstanding you, I'm sorry, but I don't see how you can take out Robert's Rules of Order. So that's basically most of 2.0. You know, I just.
Commissioner
I can't
Brothers,
take those
can I recommend
those
that
general comments and apply them to the document.
I was still manning a point. I think that you are perhaps taking this more personally than it was meant.
Can't take a general comment to the document and find a way to rewrite it. If it's a specific comment, I can. But if you don't want the document, that's fine.
So
It's not personal.
if I may, a reasonable response to the argument that I just made would be this document distills the salient aspects of the operation of the Planning Commission, places it in one place, and it establishes regularity. Yes, it is redundant in places, and it is not complete in other cases, but it documents the fundamental points of how we operate and provides a strong guidepost for this and future planning commissions. So that I think that that's what you set out to do.
Exactly.
To resolve some of the points that you brought up of having duplication, could we add a short piece to this that then would say if there is a difference between the 2, then the code would take the precedent between the 2 documents so that there's no, to get rid of the ambiguity that potentially could exist?
To be clear, this isn't my issue. I'm setting it up.
Well, that specific point you did.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
did raise.
that point, yeah, I think that we should say that this is, in a certain sense, it's advisory, and subservient to council direction and existing ordinances, and state law and, uh, uh, and council established policy. So I think that having something like that would be useful. We got to this particular item because there were a couple of comments about the sort of what the nature of this document is. If we're satisfied with what it is, then I'm very pleased to move on.
It does say that it supplements the code right there in the first paragraph. It does reference state law that requires us to make certain kinds of actions in the first paragraph. Yeah, it didn't reference every state law, but it referenced basically the Brown Act. So, it in a way did that, Mr. Chairman, but if you want to change the language, that's fine. I mean, to me, it's a given that state law and town law has more value than bylaws, but if others think otherwise, yeah, let's add a sentence.
I've previously recommended language, so,
Yeah.
Ronnie?
Yeah, well, I guess on the redundancy issue, I don't feel we're getting an echo. Hey, is your audio on your computer? I don't feel too strongly on the redundancy. I do feel strongly on like the specific points on items that were raised in the earlier part of the meeting. On the document overall, I'm not enthusiastic about it, about us adopting bylaws. I could take a pass. But I don't know. On the other hand, if everyone else is in favor, I'm sort of okay with it as long as we make the changes to issues that were raised.
Thank you, Chair.
I think Ronnie and I agree a lot on things today. I'm kind of where he's at on this. Out of the documents, I think this one has some value. It should clarify our processes. But I'm not like, oh, we have to have that. But I would go along with it. So I'm kind of, but I do want these things that we identified earlier to be changed.
I mean, I was more involved. I feel it's a useful document. I do feel it's helpful to have a succinct, brief document that outlines, how we operate. I think it's also following, other jurisdictions that have, larger than us and have used a similar document to guide how they act. So seems prudent to me.
Vice Chair Brothers, do you have any recriminations? Are you willing to step away from your?
Quite honestly, I'm stunned that people wouldn't want this. We pride ourselves on, whether you want to argue about whether it's a constitution or not, but we pride ourselves on certain values in this town, and I think this document forwards those values. And I think we've operated in a very, I'll call it loose, for lack of a better term, fashion, and it's been emphasized by the turnover of staff and the variability in what's presented to us and the variability of our time and how our meetings go on for a long time. And, those specific details I didn't get into in here, but somewhere to start to set the purpose, to start the framework. I, for example, am very sensitive to Rita's comments about how we get public comment and how we incorporate that. But I didn't put it in here because I didn't want to push the boundaries of this. There are some things like that I think, for example, personally, I think it should be part of our regular agenda to get a report from the planning director on how many building applications they've got, how many things like that they've done, or updates on things that aren't on our agenda. both for our own purposes as we prepare for something and for the public's purposes, because we do have people who pay a lot of attention. I didn't put things like that in here because that was stuff that's new. But if we can't get the basics down, I don't see where we're ever gonna get to those as a policy for how we're gonna proceed. So, you know, have what I wrote, and I hear the comments, and some of them were very specific and very useful, and it's hard to respond to the general comments, as I said before.
Can I,
So I certainly endorse what we wrote, and Doug and I put a lot of time into this, and it was, the reason you're finding typos is that basically we were putting red lines back and forth to each other.
can I comment on my initial comment? I'm more enthusiastic about some additional policies to engage the public or some of the things you suggested. So if this is a framework to get us there, that's great. Because that's sort of, other than that, what it is right now is sort of basic, and maybe because I've been following government too much, that it's sort of straightforward. But if we can, slowly work to improve things and incorporate them, that would be great. So I'm upping my enthusiasm slightly.
So I think it is a useful document. I think particularly given the kind of turnover that there's been, I think putting up some signposts, helping frame what we're doing, putting a clear document out, establishing the basic functioning, both to remind ourselves and to remind the public, and to establish some consistency in processes, good. And, I appreciate the work that the two of you have put into it. If I had some additions, I thought that the observation that how we might take into consideration and avail ourselves of the views of other committees would be helpful and could be a useful addition to the document, because presently this is how are we functioning and how we are going to avail ourselves of other information.
I think Karen had brought that up on the other document, on the, what was the other document? The roles and duties, but are you suggesting it should be in bylaws?
I think that would be, I think that could be useful. So at least to, for example, to identify what other committees have jurisdiction over the issue, and how those other committees have weighed in is something that would be useful. I don't think it needs to say really much more than that, but there's sort of a good governance. We've got committees out there that are doing things that are relevant to us. I was struck with the recent CUP that we had in front of us, that we didn't have the benefit of the not all these words not in the right order, the bicycle, traffic, pedestrian committees information in front of us, and that would be useful in having language in our bylaws saying that we shall consider such reports as are available, for example, could be.
Are you,
I
can I ask?
think what you guys are raising is actually a really interesting, I think it should be a separate new section perhaps. And it would be, for example, if you look at the general plan and you go back to this being our document and our duty, there are committees like the Trails and Paths and the Circulation and Safety that are committees of the town council who we never hear from. The only way I hear from any of them is if I either go to their meetings or I go to the town council minute. But you're absolutely right. They're germane to many of our decisions. And then in the same category, the public input that I think is important. So I'm almost thinking what you're talking about isn't our bylaws of how we operate as much as it, but it fits within our policy of what we want to hear. So you're raising, in your comment about categories, Susan, if you want to, you're raising what I think would be a new section, which I haven't seen in any of the 5 other towns I've looked at, but I'm not adverse to, which would be a section on, forgive me as I try to draft out loud, we in Portola Valley, respecting our character and rural nature, want to pay particular interest in getting public input and input from committees that are established by the town council who deal with topics directly related to the general fund.
To establish a more robust record and to draw upon such expertise as there may be.
Yeah.
And
But I think it will be viewed
But
as
I-
a power
Mhm.
grab by the town council. I should turn my microphone off.
so that would be, so I would suggest that there is a loose consensus that this document would be in principle useful with the revisions and the items being addressed that were raised during this meeting. I'd like to also suggest as a separate item that the document should be socialized with the mayor and with the planning director and with the town attorney.
I did when I submitted it to Terrence and Emily, asked them to review it. I heard 0. So I think that they just passed it on as a subcommittee of the commission. I agree. I wish they had. I specifically requested their input. I specifically got none. It has, I had the initial call with the mayor. I've had a couple of other conversations with the mayor about this, but I totally agree with you. We can run it by the mayor or other people on the council. I don't want to say anything more about the council.
We just as a matter, and we can, it should go through the town attorney. And,
I agree.
and can I suggest that you bring the next draft to the mayor and make a recommendation that she have it socialized by the appropriate people in her view. We would then receive the next iteration of this at a subsequent meeting. And there'd be an opportunity for the public to review the next document. We should provide enough time for our community to respond to it. And then we would be in a position to move forward. That would be my recommendation as to process.
Can I comment?
The public always has they always have our agenda, so they could make very specific comments. We could very specifically invite them to make those comments like we would for a CUP or anything else. I don't want to have a public comment period on our policy. I think that's
I'm
unnecessary.
not proposing having
Okay.
a 45-day public
Okay.
comment with the responses.
Your comment was general enough. I didn't know.
Ronnie?
On the, getting an echo. This, that helped. I felt like we were going astray on this aspect of describing our relationship with the committees unless you are just talking about recording what is already established in code or elsewhere. I think that we actually do have specific policies and ordinances on exactly when which committees provide advice to us. And if you're recording that, that's fine. But if you're going to make it more expansive and say that committees should be providing input to us at other times, I mean, I wouldn't support that necessarily. I think that's going beyond the aspect that was laid out of sort of describing what our current operation is.
I didn't hear him offer anything like that, but we don't actually have anything on the table, so I'm not sure if it makes sense to debate it. Do we get something on the table?
Well, I guess the example,
I don't disagree with you.
the example that was brought up about BPTS and the Priory project, I mean, the reason they didn't provide input is because they don't provide input on that type of project.
But it's not by code, by practice. So the question is, I think the question the chairman is raising, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to take a lot of time on it. I think the question the chairman's raising is, should we be thinking about that? Not that we would necessarily say that we will do that and act on it. I think he's asked, I understood him to be raising the question of whether or not we should be considering that more regularly.
I want a checklist of who has jurisdiction and whether they've provided comment on it. And that's kind of the level of what I'm looking for in the first instance. And if it's an area where we could benefit from expertise and we don't have any record, it creates the basis for our going back and evaluating and soliciting. But it's would be again of the form, the Planning Commission shall solicit such information as has been provided and shall consider the expertise of the several committees which have been established for that purpose.
I just want to make a comment that I don't know if I'm completely comfortable with just socialization of this document, and I would kind of like a little more of a formal,
Commissioner Brothers?
a little more of having Catherine look at that formally, and maybe even the town council. That's just my thought.
The town attorney needs to review the documents, since the town attorney is going to review it. And the mayor needs to decide respectfully which parts of the town apparatus it should be. That's not a good thing for this commission, and respectfully, to decide. The question would be whether we give it to the council as a whole to make that determination, or whether we give it to the mayor and the mayor gets to provide direction.
That sounds very sensible. Thank you.
If I can, to summarize the ad hoc committee will take the comments that have been received. Will create a new draft of the document. Will provide the document to mayor and to the town attorney. I should be CC'd on that, and the planning director should be CC'd on that, so that should BCC, not BCC on it. Just so that everybody knows where everybody else is while also observing Brown Act, issues. And then we should see a draft of this, I would think, within the next few weeks is what I would. We'll see it as soon as it's available to be seen. Let's go on to the next item here, which I think is going to be.
Mr. Chairman, you had originally offered that people could submit written comments, other commissioners. I guess I want to know if anyone's going to do that and if you can set a time limit on it.
Comments should be provided within the next week.
And where will those comments go? To me and Doug or to
No.
Emily?
I should go to Emily.
Emily?
Thank you.
Emily.
Yeah, I
Okay.
appreciate your.
Yes, I'll give my email. Lane, LANE @portolavalley.net. You can also reach it through the town website.
Thank you. Okay.
So the issues that were raised in the meeting today, are you requesting those be written?
The ones that were specific, I've written down and responded to. The ones that were generic in general are going to be harder to deal with. So, but I don't think you need to repeat them. I think Doug and I heard them. You just run the risk that we might not have heard them the way you said them if you don't send them in writing. Don't you think? Yeah, perfect. Didn't hurt. But a lot of yours, Ronnie, that were very specific, I've already incorporated as we went through it.
All right, so the next item that we have,
Website?
yeah, thanks.
I made the changes that Ronnie suggested about instead of available electronically, available for remote attendance. I haven't added the comment Ronnie said about public comment. I don't know if this is a place to add it or if it's gonna go in this new section of the bylaws. And nobody likes that first sentence. Although I think it accurately reflects, I'm not sure how to fix it yet, but we'll think of that. If someone has a proposal for the first sentence of the second paragraph, we'd be happy to have it.
I propose leaving it the way it was.
You propose what?
Leaving it the way it was, take out the red parts.
Okay. Okay.
I only observed that the last sentence of the third paragraph, all commissioners, volunteers appointed by town council for 4-year terms, needs the same fix that we talked about before.
Right? The one is crossed out. Oh, it was moved.
And what
To deal with stub terms. Unless there is some significant concern, I would propose that that document go again to the mayor to be circulated without the need for further comment on it and be posted as appropriate. Let me ask. That's what I would propose, and I'm looking for heads nodding or people saying yes, or no, Nicholas, you've missed it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine.
Fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Asserted, but that's it's just so straightforward, but okay.
I said this is roles and responsibilities.
Sorry, it's just we're just gonna send it so that the website gets updated, right? We're not gonna, it's not gonna come back.
No, I don't think we need to see it come back unless we,
Right, I don't know where we could do that would be simpler than that.
pardon me?
I didn't understand Commissioner
Yeah,
Brothers'
yeah,
comment.
yeah.
I don't see anything that we could do that would be more straightforward than sending it so that the website is updated.
Without further discussion on the point. Roles and responsibilities.
With all due respect, I think we could all agree that the sentence on the website that says, due to COVID-19 policies, the Planning Commission will be meeting by Zoom should be deleted immediately. Since there are no longer any COVID-19 policies.
Well, all these changes are gonna be applied immediately, right? All of the proposed changes with the edits we talked about will be sent to the mayor so she can send it to the staff person responsible for updating the
It should
website.
take a month. Okay, that's
Well,
fine.
how else are we gonna edit the website?
I think that's where we've ended up.
Fine.
Thank you. Wi- With respect to, Portola Valley Planning Commission roles and responsibilities, commissioners. I think that there were very few changes, that were made to this, document. I'm wondering what kind of review people think would be.
Well, I'll say I really like the idea of this going into the committee and commissioner handbook. And
So if it's, again, it should be reviewed, again, by the mayor, probably also by council. And then I think it probably gets folded into the commission, to the extent that we have planning commission in the commission committee handbook, it belongs there. Could also be a standalone off of the planning commission webpage if we wanted to do that. But I think that's pretty granular.
Sounds fine.
Let's go and again, send it to the mayor, get the town attorney's view on it. I would be surprised if there are any issues. I don't feel a need to see this again until I
Such
review
time as possible.
the published handbook.
So the process for those three works to basically come up with a product after going through all those hoops that I guess we could either put on the website as, you know, more information on the planning commission or something like that. We haven't gotten to it yet, but the letter itself is going to fit into another category. I don't think we want to put a generic letter like this on the website, but somehow or other we have to find a way that it gets created and sent out by the planning director, whoever he or she may be. So maybe the best way we do that is somehow or other put something on our agenda or on our policy or something that says any new members shall receive a letter.
Yeah.
Jumping forward here a little bit, but I'm trying to incorporate that into what we are doing.
I think that they shall receive a welcome letter such as the exemplar.
So we'll put that in the,
I don't understand where we landed on the roles and duties document.
So
I don't
the
understand what-
document we're now discussing is a welcome letter.
I know, but I don't understand what the conclusion was for roles and duties. What is going to happen with it?
I think that the proposal is that it now comes from the planning director to new,
Um,
new members of the planning commission.
You're talking about this document, the roles and duties of commissioner?
Negative.
The
The
welcome
the
letter.
welcome.
I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
I know. So I guess I wanted to go back to the roles and duties of
Oh, okay.
commissioners. I didn't understand what your proposal
I
is.
think that we kind of, the recommendation that I believe we move forward with is that it's going to live in the committee and commission handbook. It may also have secondary places where it lives, such as a website, but it is principally living in the,
Okay, and the process for that is what? Are we going to review it again or?
I don't,
Process was that he wants all of this to be revised, then go to the mayor and go to the three documents that we're talking about, not the letter. And then go to the lawyer and then come back to you guys. I don't think we have decided, at least I haven't heard, that we've decided where it goes after that. Whether it goes to our website, whether it goes to the committee and commission handbook or not, and
That-
we haven't made that inquiry, and I will make that inquiry. But my point was that this is just a different animal.
Well, you're,
what we're
let's not
doing
jump
with
to that one because what you're saying is different than what
Okay.
Chair Targ was saying.
it is different from what I was saying. I don't feel like I need to see the roles and the responsibilities document again.
You don't,
No,
okay.
I don't have a need. If other people would like to see it again, you should say, I would like to see it again, and we'll see it again. I'm looking for direction, Karen, Ronnie.
Um, Well, so it's going to go to the attorney and the attorney may have, I guess, some comments and then what will happen with those?
Those will
If there are significant comments, we'll bring it back to you. Don't you think?
friendly amendment.
Okay.
For the welcome letter, honestly, I looked at this and I said, this is a very fine sample letter that's written under my name that I may or may not use in any part, but it's a good, but it is a good point of departure. I've never had a document that's been prepared for my signature that I will use without modifying it, that I can remember. But I think it's fine, but it feels more like a sample letter that should go out. I love the idea of something going out saying, hey, congratulations. You should know that there are ethics requirements that are associated with this. And here are your basic duties. And I think that it would have been useful, given that it came from one of the newest members of this planning commission, think, yeah, this is what I would like to have received. I think we should take that seriously.
I guess one question, Nicholas, I understand how you might feel about putting your signature on something, but one question we had was whether it would come from you or it could also come from the planning director.
Comes
Him
from,
or
I think
herself,
it comes
so-
from a planning director.
Yeah. That's what
I mean,
thought you were
I
saying.
think that I send somebody a note and saying, hey, let's get a beer over at Rosati's.
I think you call him up. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Okay. Now, do you want to see that again? Or
No,
before the commission? Okay.
no, I think it goes to again, I think it gets circulated. The only question is, how do we make sure it doesn't get lost?
Well, we could, he says. put in here somewhere in our bylaws that newly appointed members are expected to receive the welcoming letter from the planning director. It would be here, it would remind us that it's here. It would be a placeholder.
I think that's fine. It's basically, we need someplace where it says, gotta pay attention to the new kids.
Should we just call this a sample letter as well? I mean, that would take off some of the, you know, keeping it updated and everything.
Yeah.
Just put on a
Just put
watermark
it, yeah,
draft or something.
Sample, yeah.
and,
okay.
You know,
Okay.
we should go and
Thank you.
circulate it again simply because to the mayor, because we should have a complete packet. She should see what we've got. Thank you. That was a good idea. And you guys put a lot of work into it and, hopefully we've furnished it, through this process rather than anything else. But I think that this will be useful in helping us move forward. I'm going to observe that this is our sole item on our agenda. I believe at this point, we're going to take any commission, staff, committee reports, recommendations. The record reflect that Emily has none.
Mr. Chair, we do have 2 packets of minutes. I don't have the agenda right in front of me, so.
We should observe that the local CERT and sheriff's office has done yeoman's work in trying to track down the lost hiker. I don't believe with success at this point, but it's a TBD always. And we appreciate their work. We have there was a decision by council that I want to flag, and that was that they moved forward with the recommendation to HCD to include Ford Field with the exception of the baseball diamond and the parking area to be rezoned and to move forward with Lonnie's shaking his head, so he's going to provide clarification as to what was done.
Well, without proceeding with the rezoning right now, right? They elected not to proceed with the rezoning at this time.
And then to move it forward to HCD.
Yes.
So they move forward consistent with our recommendations.
No, it's a bit different.
All right, so
I did not prepare to
we're gonna
update this.
table this because clearly we don't have the full answer in front of us unless Emily is willing to venture what happened without any advance notice, and she is recognizing that discretion is a better part of valor in describing what council did.
Having tried to review that tape, it reinforces Rita's comment. You cannot actually hear on the tape what they did.
Interesting.
So I was curious to hear what Ronnie was going to say.
So we should actually go and understand what happened at the meeting and also understand where we are with HCD. With that, let's move on to I don't think we have enough of anything there to open that for public comment unless there's somebody who has a public comment.
Rita Gomez, you're allowed to speak.
Hey, Rita.
Thank you for taking my comment, but just wondering if there were any outcomes from that Thursday meeting with our intern town manager and our intern planning person when they had driven up to Sacramento to meet with HCD. Any updates from that you can share?
Rita, I'm sorry, I don't have any direct updates. As soon as I do, I will happily share them with the planning commission and public at large.
When was that meeting, Emily? About 3 weeks ago now?
No, I believe that meeting happened last Thursday.
Last Thursday, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rita. All right, let's go talk about minutes.
I did have, on page 28, BPTS is written incorrectly twice.
I had one comment on page 27. The second paragraph, it mentions that the ad hoc committee would be formed, but then it doesn't say who is in the ad hoc committee. I think that was part of the discussion.
It's at the end of the next paragraph, right? Vice Chair Brothers and Commissioner Morris to the newly formed ad hoc committee.
Okay, sorry.
Do you have that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Other modifications, suggestions to the minutes?
Are we doing them separately?
We should do it separately.
I didn't have any comments.
All right.
I thought they were good.
So,
I'll just say that I was absent, but I did listen to the recording and I read the minutes, so I do plan to vote on it.
There is one member of the public with their fingers.
perfect, thank you.
Phone number ending in 7562, you're allowed to speak.
Good evening. Yes, I mean, the one comment has been already addressed, PPTS, if we can correct that. March 5th, page 34, it still lists common fields. I hope we have rectified this. I brought this up at the Planning Commission several times. It's common field. It's very important because this is not the field where the new athletic center is going. This is the baseball field that is in the back. And I have sent you a controversy fence that was paid by the town. And we don't know why, but that's how AYSO can no longer play there. People of the area can no longer run their dogs there. So this was very controversial, and yeah, this is a very important topic. And then my last comment is, I would like to understand, I only know one John Golden, and it's spelled G-O-N-G-O-U-L-D-N, but then the minutes refer to John Golden, G-O-L-D-N-E-N. I think it's John, G-O-N-G-O-U-L-D-N, but I would like clarifications, especially because several committee members have insinuated that one person is starting or is trying to start a 501c nonprofit organization. to get funding to have some projects done. But people who are not in that particular circle don't know what is really going on. So we're waiting for specifications. And then when I try to Google, I find a document dated August 11th, 2022, and it refers to Golden State Acquisition Fund, but it lists the housing element. And so I could not understand the relationship between that. I don't know, what does our council has funding in Golden State Acquisition Fund. It has not been revealed publicly, but it would be interesting. So if you have any clarification who that John Golden is, that would be great. Thank you.
I got it.
Okay, thank you very much. To the extent that there's a spelling issue with respect to John Golden's, and if we can correct that, please.
So on the minutes that we're currently reviewing, February 19th, on page 24, in the middle, it says John Golden, and the spelling there should be corrected to JONGOULDEN.
Noted, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Do we have any other, on the line?
No other speakers.
Thank you. So we're closing the hearing on that matter, and we're now going to take a vote to approve the minutes. We're going to first vote on the February 19th minutes. We can do this by voice. Actually, we shouldn't do this by voice.
Amended.
I second it. Yeah, we'll do it. We do because I think that there actually may be an abstention.
Nope, I'm gonna vote.
All right, then we can do it, straight up.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. All in favor.
Great.
I move the adoption of the March 5th minutes.
And I second it.
I had an edit.
I didn't hear any edits.
I thought we were doing them separately,
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
but
Sorry.
it's actually the same. I had the same issue that Caroline raised. So on page 34, there's several instances of common field spelled COMMON, and that should be corrected to Kalman, spelled KALMAN. And it appears several times in that paragraph.
Yes, third paragraph from the bottom. Thank you.
And the fourth paragraph from the bottom.
Any other comments?
To open a public comment on the March 5 minutes. Emily, do we have anybody who has comments on the March 5 minutes?
Currently, no hands are raised at this time.
We are now closing the hearing on the March 5 minutes, and we have a motion. It's not in order. I move the March 5 minutes in proper order. Do we have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
I have to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Thank you for your abstention. Motion passes.
Excellent. With that, I'm going to call it and adjourn the meeting.
Right.